From prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. You can catch new episodes throughout the day at Creature Guide Live on Rumble and YouTube. Now, let's get into the news of the day. Starting off with an article by Outdoors.com. Yep, wrong one. Okay, here we go. So we have here a coati, possibly a white-nosed coati, adorable animal attacked hiker in southern Arizona. So in southern Arizona, you have the coati species, the white-nosed coati. These animals they get to around 13 pounds, and they tend to be quite omnivorous, mainly feeding on a variety of different species of insects within this mountainous region. And occasionally, they'll go after certain species of fruit and they might even prey on like young baby squirrels. They might go after actually different species of rodents, but insects tend to be more on the menu. A hiker returning to his vehicle after a trek near Tucson, Tuscan people, Arizona, saw a coati mundi, also called a coati, sitting on his hood. The man tried The man tried to scare the animal. What is with this writing, people? The man tried to scare the animal away so he could enter his vehicle, but that backfired badly. What? It kept coming? Okay, let's take a deeper look. The Kawani Mundi ripped a windshield wiper off and then attacked the hiker as he attempted to get in the car. So, this Kawani Mundi thought he was the Hulk and just started. And jeez, the hiker ended up with the bite and the scratch. Yep, this. Okay, no, Kawatis. I wonder if this animal had rabies, but they do have the ability to scare off animals such as cougars, definitely foxes, bobcats, and jaguars. Where they're from, Um, they have a less of a chance of scaring off something like a cougar or jaguar because they're just so overpowered. But even bobcats are much stronger than the coati, but it can still put up a fight. And they have their claws, which are meant to help them climb up trees, can be quite useful in a fight. And definitely a desert fox is going to have a big problem. Wildlife officials are now searching for the aggressive animal, and the hiker received the rabies vaccine just in case. Wait, and the hiker oh, okay. Yeah, you should. Coatis are related to raccoons? Yes, they are part of the family Procyon of mammals. The white-nosed coati, yes, it thrives from the southwestern United States, so different parts of Southern California, New Mexico, Arizona, even West Texas, and then down to different arid and semi-arid regions of Mexico, not inhabiting the more humid tropical regions, but if I'm saying that correctly, wait, I think I need to correct myself on that. It might be certain major, like non-forested desert areas that you don't find the they do tend to hang out in rock crevices. But you can find them throughout different parts of Central America, especially into Nicaragua, Guatemala, down to Panama, and then they inhabit just the tip of Colombia and northwestern South America, and then that's pretty much the southernmost of their range. These animals are very cute, but they're not cuddly. Never underestimate a wild animal. Is that it? Just their footage? No, it's just a picture. Okay, well, let me know what your are on this Kawadi attack? Do you think it had rabies? In the comments, and thank you for joining Creature Guy Live. Now let's move on to the next article by Sign News. 90 million-year-old mammal fossil found in Gobi Desert. A new genus and species of celestid mammal has been identified from the fossilized remains found in the Bayan Shiri Formation in Mongolia's Gobi Desert. So this time frame, this is before animals like Velociraptor, the more famous Asian Tyrannosaur, Tarbosaurus batar would evolve. This is before Protoceratops. This is closer to animals like Gigantoraptor, um, and even tyrannosaurs like Electrosaurus. So this is a life reconstruction of Ravha Ishi. I believe it's pointing to this mammal on the sides. So it's amongst a couple of hadrosaurs. I wonder which species these two are. Named Rava Ishi, the new species roamed Earth during the Cretaceous period around 90 million years ago. The ancient mammal was the size of a mouse and belonged to Zelestidae, an eutherian mammal family widely distributed from Eurasia to North America and the late Cretaceous. Yes, eutherians were quite common during the Cretaceous period throughout different parts of North America, Asia, and Europe. These mammals probably would have stolen certain dinosaur eggs. They might have gone after a wide variety of different species of birds within the time, especially different types of UNT ornithins. They might even gone after like certain duck-like birds, and this is just one of over 100 different species of this type of um, mammal in the Mesozoic, and they probably would have fed on a variety of different species of insects. Might have even gone after fruit when fruit first evolved during the early Cretaceous, and might even gone after a wide variety of flowers as well. It's very possible that many of these mammals were quite omnivorous. Certain mammal species from the Cretaceous period, it does look like would have been primarily carnivorous. Numerous exquisitely preserved mammal fossils unearthed from late Cretaceous layers in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia have played a key role in understanding Mesozoic mammalian evolution, said Okayama University of Science doctoral candidate Tsukasa Okoshi and colleagues. These splendid mammal fossils have been recovered mainly from the Rungoyot and Dodokta formations. Oh, Dodokta. Okay. Yeah, Barunga. And but only two fragmentary remains of mammals have been collected from the underlying Bayanshiri formation. Yes, so the Dagota Sahadokta. This is where animals like, I believe, Gigantoraptor and even Electrosaurus have been discovered within Mongolia. So, Electrosaurus wasn't a very large tyrannosaur. It was, even well, you could say for the time it was close to one of the largest, but 90 million years ago, Electrosaurus was about 18 feet in length and might have weighed somewhere around 1,500 to 2,000 pounds. The Gigantoraptors, which were not raptors, they were part of a different family of dinosaurs, theropod dinosaurs. They weren't even oviraptors, despite their distinct skull look. They could reach a length of somewhere around 26 feet and probably be around 14 feet tall. So they were one of the largest theropod dinosaurs in the region. The new Celestid fossil, oh, and they might have fed on mammals from time to time, especially when they were younger. Any, wouldn't provide much protein, more or less any calories for that large of an animal. The new Celestid fossil was found in 2019 at the Bayan Shiri locality of the Bayan Shiri Formation. The specimen is a 1 centimeter long partial lower jaw with a distal portion of an ultimate premolar and the first two, the third molars. Okay, so we're looking at different parts of the skull, referring to specifically the dentary part of the skull. Finding such a tiny fossil in the vast expanse of the Gobi Desert feels like a gift from the Gobi Desert. Okay, it's nothing short of miraculous, said Okayama University of Sciences professor Mototaka Saineoshi. A lot of Asian names here. Its unusually tall molars and distinctive jaw shape differ from known relatives. Therefore, we erected a new genus and species, the paleontologist said. Oh, that wasn't hitting me. Um I was thinking this was just a more well preserved fossil of Rahava ishi. I didn't realize that this was a completely new genus and species. The robust nature of the molars resemble those of seed and fruit eating mammals. Yeah, that wasn't coming to mind. There were certain mammals, possibly even during the Jurassic, that had specific dentry designed for only chewing on seeds and fruit, not really going after any meat. Not that that doesn't happen even with many um, so-called herbivores of today when they're experiencing some sort of a protein deficiency, but it tends to happen more with certain herbivores than others. There are many, quite a few species of herbivore where it just doesn't occur. Especially if you look at certain individuals. Now, these aren't necessarily seed um, or fruit eaters, but they tend to feed on a variety of nectar, especially if you look at certain species of possums, bats, um, ignoring the insects that come into their mouth. They don't go after meat or any flesh that's available. But you could technically call them an omnivore because while taking in the nectar, they might be taking in certain small insects as well, but they're not going after any flesh. Providing an intriguing insight that early eutherians, so this is a broad family of mammals that belong to the Mesozoic, lived during the Mesozoic, were already exploiting resources created by flowering plants. I wonder if some of these, I bet some of these mammals, by the time flowers popped up in the Cretaceous, and this could have been somewhere between 135 to 145 million years ago, they were taking advantage of the pollen as well. So you might have had specifically just pollen feeding or nectar feeding mammals than the early Mesozoic. I mean, the early Cretaceous. According to the team, Rafaishi is the first Zelestid from the Iron Tree Formation, and in fact, the first discovered in Mongolia. Rafaishi potentially represents the oldest member among Zelestids, or as old as the currently known oldest Zelestids collected in Uzbekistan. Um, so this country is not too far from Kazakhstan, just south of central Russia and northwest of India, suggesting the emergence of this group occurred around the early/late Cretaceous boundary to early late Cretaceous, the researcher said. Yeah, so Zelestids are a branch of eutherians, um, eutherian mammals. Oh, that's it. Okay, well, let me know what your thoughts are on the uh, Rava Aishi seed fruit eating mammal in the comments. And thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now let's move on to the next article by outdoors.com. Unexpected animal causes power outage in North Carolina. These are funny ones. So let's see what happened. One single snake, oh boy, caused a massive power outage affecting 10,000 people in Durham, North Carolina this week. So this happened in Durham. This happened in the first week of May in 2025. A snake. How? The snake reportedly crawled past protective fencing designed to keep critters from accessing the equipment, and well, it accessed the equipment. When the snake came in contact with the equipment in the Durham substation, it triggered the power outage on Monday evening into early Tuesday morning, reports local news. But how did it how did it take out the power? News News sources are reporting the snake was a black snake, which might mean it was a rat snake, Pantherophis elegahaniensis. Rat snakes, these are not venomous snakes. There's around 3 different species in the eastern United States, and they get to about 5 to 6 feet in length. They tend to go after small rodents, insects. They're practically harmless, and they're not very aggressive. They're quite docile. Sometimes simply called a black snake, rat snakes are common, non-venomous snakes found in North Carolina and beyond. No, just specifically Eastern North America. I mean, the Eastern United States. If you find one in the Western United States, it was probably a pet. They are adept at climbing, and people often spot them in trees. Unfortunately for the snake and 10,000 people in North Carolina, this skill could explain how one snake found its way past barriers and into the substation, causing a power outage. The Nature Conservancy says squirrels, birds, rats, raccoons, snakes, and insects are common offenders. In fact, the conservancy says about 13 million Americans lose power annually thanks to wild animals. What? Wait. Well, okay, if you're including insects, I guess especially ants, that's still embarrassing. Pathetic. Like seriously? We no. How? I'm still wondering how a snake did this to 10,000 people. But respect to that snake. I'm sorry that I'm guessing he perished. I'm guessing he wanted to set some record amongst his rat snake friends. Uh, okay, well, I feel bad for. Well, you know what? I hope your electricity is back on, but this is pathetic. This needs to be. I'm not sure exactly what went wrong here. It's amazing what a little reptile can do. The little snake that could. Okay, let's move on. Let me know what your thoughts are on the deceased rat snake that decided to commit suicide, but somehow did it. I mean, I'm still astonished. And thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now let's move on to the next article by Sign News. New species of Permian herbivorous tetrapod identified in China. Paleontologists have identified a new genus and species of mid-sized parasaur from 2 fossilized specimens found in China in 2018. Well, what do we got here? Looks like a relative of the Scutosaurus. An artist's reconstruction of Yinshanosaurus angustus. What did it say? Parasaur. These guys, they evolved into a variety of forms. They lived in the late Permian, somewhere between 265 to like 252 million years ago. They had a really short reign for quite a successful type of, say, like para reptile that they were. They are members of the therapsid lineage of animals, but specifically part of the Parasauromorph um, lineage of the therapsids, and then specifically parasaurs. They could reach, so they are more closely related to reptiles, and the largest species of this group could probably reach somewhere around 2,000 pounds. And they were primarily herbivorous. In fact, I think those are his teeth right here on the bottom. You could say that some of them had more of like sort of cup, no, not really cup shape, but kind of like a leaf shaped sort of tooth that was designed for basically just severing through different types of horsetails or different species of ferns within the region. This was far before flowers or fruit started evolving. Named Yinshanosaurus angustus, newly identified species roamed Earth during the latest Permian period, between 259 and 254 million years ago. So this was around about a few million years before his kind would die out. They all seem to die out like around a couple million years before the major Permian extinction, which is interesting. The ancient beast was a member of Parasauria, specialized group of herbivorous tetrapods that existed throughout the supercontinent Pangaea during the middle to late Permian. Parasauridae are a bizarre herbivorous clade of tetrapods existed in the Guadalupian and Lumpingian. This is referring to those specific epochs during the mid and late Permian, and were victims of both the late Capetanian and the end Permian mass extinction events. I'm guessing this was also leading the series of extinctions that led up to like the final mass extinction of the Permian. Said Dr. Hien Yi and Hun Lu from the Institute of Vertebrate Paleontology and Paleoanthropology at the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Okay, I'm just going to keep going. Oh, Academy, yeah. Parasauria has a worldwide distribution, with fossils discovered in Africa, Europe, Asia, and South America. Yeah, it's very similar with many different species of also proto mammals during this time. So, animals similar to the more famous Lystrosaurus, or even animals like Thrinaxodonts, so the cynodonts within this region, and even different species of the proto mammals like the Gorgonopsians, which would have fed on different species of Parasauria during this time. Um, Parasaurs were common primary consumers in several terrestrial tetrapod faunas, including the late Permian fauna of northern China. Since the 1960s, 8 Chinese parasaur species have been described. Two specimens, a nearly complete skull and an articulated partial postcranial skeleton with a nearly complete skull, were unearthed in China in 2018. Well, that's good to hear. It doesn't say like what specific genus or species that they're referring to, though. The first specimen was excavated from the dark purple siltstone, in the lower part of the Sunhyago Formation near Zhangyaguto Village, Biode County, Zinshu City, Shanxi. Well, thank you for being very specific. This is the most specific description I've ever heard of a fossil. It's they didn't give the address though, but you don't really need it. The paleontologist said the second specimen was excavated from purplish silty mudstone in the upper part of member 1 of the Naobalgu Formation near Kindian Village, Shagwai district of Batu City, Nai Mongol. Okay. It's good to know. According to the authors, Yinshanosaurus angustus had the narrowest skull of all parasaurs. Probably means it was, I'm guessing, it was kind of relatively weak compared to other parasaurs. I believe these animals are also a bit more closely related to turtles, with skull length more than twice the skull width at the lateral edges of the cheeks. The skeleton of Yinshanosaurus angustus provides the complete cranial and articulated postcranial details of Chinese parasaurs for the first time, they said. Oh. Okay, well, um, they didn't mention a whole lot of like what else they found out about this animal. Like, was he possibly um mostly herbivorous, or also like possibly the size? Oh, wait a second. Skull length more than twice size the skull width at the lateral edges of the cheeks. Hmm. No, I'm still confused. I'll have to read this again later, just to also take a look at possibly the formation and just the other parasaurs that are inside them, because I don't pay a whole lot of attention to parasaurs from the Permian, even though I think they're a very unique branch of herbivores during this time, especially one of the coolest before you enter the Triassic period, which started somewhere around 250 million years ago. So we'll probably get into parasaurs again pretty shortly. Well, let me know what your thoughts are on Yin Shanosaurus in the comments, and thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now let's move on to the next article by discoverwildlife.com. Genetic mutation discovered in rare Italian bears, and it could help save them. Only around 50 critically endangered Apennine brown bears remain in the rugged mountains of central Italy. That number's been around for years now. I remember back in 2018, and they mentioned that there were only 50 in the area. If this is referring to the Marskin brown bear, I thought there were even less now, like somewhere between 17 to 30. So you can find them in like Abruzzo National Park in central Italy. I think it's like an hour from Rome, possibly. So here is the Marskin brown bear. I believe this is an individual of the subspecies. They get to around 4 to 600 pounds. They're a bit smaller than other subspecies of brown bear, even over in Europe. Europe, mainland, or Russia, or parts of China and North America. The Apennine brown bear, Ursus arctos marsicanus. So marsicanus referring to the specific subspecies, is a critically endangered subspecies of brown bear found mainly in the Abruzzo, Lazio, and Molise National Park in central Italy. The distinct population of bear, also known as the Marskin brown bear, has been isolated for centuries, and as a result has evolved unique physical characteristics and behaviors that set it apart from other brown bears. Well, it's also that when referring to the population, it's a bit of a danger as to whether or not this animal has an inbred, its population is inbred. So that's a big question. And if it is, then basically it's pretty much extinct at this point. Habitat loss, human activity, and genetic weaknesses now mean there are only around 50 left in the wild, putting them at serious risk of extinction. Now, a new study by the Italian Endemixit Project, I haven't heard of this, has uncovered a potentially critical genetic flaw that could be contributing to their low survival rates. The research could also provide insights to help boost conservation efforts in the future. I'd say compared to other subspecies of European brown bear, the Marsican Italian brown bear tends to be a little more docile than other individuals, unless I'm mixing it up with the northern subspecies, because there's also the northern Italian brown bear population, um, which recently was also like back in the 2010s, early 2000s, they reintroduced bears from the neighboring country of Slovenia into the area to help provide genetic variety, because it was literally down to just like an old crippled male and then another old crippled female in the area, and they couldn't breed. So they started reintroducing bears from Slovenia, also much younger, healthy individuals. Using advanced computer modeling and laboratory experiments, the researchers discovered a mutation in the bear's mitochondria, which are like tiny power plants inside cells that produce energy. This defect reduces the bear's ability to generate energy and causes a buildup of harmful byproducts. This mutation appears to significantly impact these bears, explains Nunzio Perta, scientist from Marche Polytechnic University in Italy. It's like they're constantly running on low batteries. This could make it harder for them to survive, especially in a challenging environment. So, for some reason, they're having this bear population is having a lot of trouble retaining energy. That's interesting. So there's some sort of infection on their mitochondria. Scientists are now looking for ways to help the bears cope with this problem. One idea is to introduce more natural foods, rich antioxidants such as berries, into their habitat. Antioxidants can help counteract the harmful effects of the faulty mitochondria. Well, uh, this isn't good, especially like if you want to increase their population. You don't necessarily want to spread these types of genetics onto future bears. But another question of mine is that are these bears inbred? We hope to create a plan to protect these bears in their natural environment, says Puerta. The bears are a crucial part of the very unique ecosystem that we have here in Italy. Yeah, I don't want the Roman brown bears to go extinct. Okay, is this an individual? This might be a picture of a Mexican brown bear, possibly in Abruzzo National Park. That's where they tend to be seen most often in central Italy. They're also a bit more, well, they're much less carnivorous than more northern brown bear populations, especially in parts of Slovakia, Poland, but definitely once you get to like Norway, Sweden, the brown bears in those areas are much more carnivorous. And in Italy, even like much of southern Europe, they tend to feed on a variety of different species of nuts, different species of fruit, even certain types of grasses. And rodents do consist as a part of their diet. Insects are a bit higher, but they just have a much larger herbivorous part of their feeding behavior. Oh, is this it? Yeah, so it's a big question with this specific population. Um, are they inbred? Could you just reintroduce or introduce another subspecies like the closer ones over in Slovenia, even like different parts of Slovakia, just Eastern Europe, and send them down to this region? Yes, it's a different subspecies, but it's still the same species of bear. They could still breed and would help um, bring genetic variety. But besides that, let me know what your thoughts are on the state of the Central Italian brown bear in the comments. And thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now let's move on to the next article by Sci News. Megatooth sharks were opportunistic super carnivores, new research reveals. In a study published today in the journal Earth and Planetary Science Letters, paleontologists analyzed the ratio of two different zinc isotopes in the dental enamel of 19 species from an early Miocene marine ecosystem. So this is referring to somewhere between 15 to 22 million years ago, including the megatooth sharks Otodus megalodon, Otodus cubutensis. Here's the thing. When it comes to megalodon itself, you're only referring to the genus, which is interesting. This is one of the few prehistoric animals where um, this occurs. You could say it's can happen with current animals as well. Actually, like with the Italian brown bear, people tend to refer to this bear as its subspecies name, with marsicanus. And when it comes to when like the genus is Ursus, and then you have the species Arctos for that brown bear. But when it comes to this shark, Megalodon, people always leave out Otodus. Most people have not heard of this specific genus Otodus. And when you're talking about dinosaurs, people tend to refer to them as their genus name. So if you're talking about something like species of theropods such as Tyrannosaurus rex, um, more people have heard of the genus Tyrannosaurus, but they tend to just refer to it as also T. rex. I guess a better representation would be something like Triceratops. Many that know what a dinosaur is have heard of the name Triceratops, but they haven't heard of a species name like Hortus. So they just refer to the genus. Whereas in this instance, they're only referring to the species. And Ototus chubutensis. So these are two different species of, technically you could say, megalodon. But at least to make it more easy for people to understand. But technically, when you're talking about sharks closely related to megalodon, you're talking about different species of Ototus. So here is Ototus, possibly megalodon himself. There have been a wide variety of reconstructions of megalodon recently, where there's been a lot of change. Some instances where the animal has been portrayed as being a bit more sleek, or just, um, I believe, not as heavily built as we once thought. Yeah, usually this large of a shark isn't going to be going after a seal pup in this instance. It's going to be going after larger sharks and definitely different species of whales within the region. Not that it might occasionally, it wouldn't occasionally much a large species of pinniped, but it's not going to be a big part of its diet. So Todus megalodon went extinct around 3.6 million years ago. Yeah, many tend to make it out like it was right before the Ice Age occurred, or as it occurred, like the Pleistocene around 1.8 to 2 million years ago is when Megalodon went extinct, Ototus megalodon. But the thing is that he actually went extinct somewhere around 1.6 million years earlier. Now, you might have had different species of Ototus that survived a bit longer, but Megalodon himself, something happened towards the last 2 million years of the Pliocene, and it had a major effect on this specific species. Ototus megalodon was a gigantic megatoothed shark that lived in the world's oceans from 23 to 3.6 million years ago. It could grow to the enormous size of at least 15 meters long. Yeah, this is on the smaller spectrum. 15 meters, what are we looking at? Around 60 feet or so? They could reach, well, okay, you could say 60 feet. That's about average for a megalodon. But the thing is that it was much heavier. I mean, possibly reaching, there have been different estimates, but at least 50, could be around 50 to 70 tons, making it one of the largest apex marine predators since the Mesozoic. Ototus megalodon swam through the world's oceans between 23 and 3 million years ago, frequently on the hunt for prey to satisfy a calorie demand as fast as its size. When it comes to this timeline that's showing, it might be that the Ototus, or the Ototus genus, or the family known as the Obodontomorphs. No, that's not right. Um, the Obodontomorphs, which is the family of sharks in which Megalodon belongs to, was around since the early Cretaceous, around 115 million years ago, and then ended up going extinct right around 3 to 3.6 million years ago. So they had a decent time on Earth, um, just hunting a variety of different marine creatures. But Totus megalodon, I I don't believe that it was around for this long of a time frame. I will do more research on that. Frequently on the hunt for prey to satisfy a calorie demand as vast as its size, said Goethe University Frankfurt's Dr. Jeremy McCormack and colleagues. According to estimates, it required around 100,000 kilocalories per day. I haven't heard of a kilocalorie. Um, which is interesting because I'm surprised that really that's all that it needs. I mean, that's a lot, but yeah, I don't know what a kilocalorie is, so I can't necessarily picture how much this is. Scientists widely now, it's also probably going to be getting a lot of its calories from the blubber of different whales that it's feeding on, and that probably once it took down a whale, depending on the size, the species, probably wouldn't take long to obtain whatever these kilocalories are. Often used in nutrition to measure the energy content of food and beverages or the energy expanded through physical activity. 1 kilocalorie is equal to 1,000 calories or one calorie. Okay, this thing, even though it's not a good comparison, probably makes something like a polar bear or even a Tyrannosaurus Rex look like nothing in terms of energy consumption. I have massive respect for the megalodon and its kilocalorie consumption. Wow. Um, jeez, what is this? 100,000. Huh. I is that how? Okay, something seems widely exaggerated. I'm gonna have to take a look at whale blubber and the amount that it contains. I mean, it's okay. So this could be what 10 million, 100 million calories, just regular calories a day. Okay, well, um, scientists. I guess if you've taken all of those people, like the Meg movie, I thought was horrible. Like I didn't like any of them. But if you add all of those Asian people on the beach at that one moment, could probably fill him up. But I think he's gonna have a massive hairball afterwards. Um. Anyway, scientists widely assumed that megalodon's main calorie intake was in the form of whales. At least that's what it did. At least that's what it did. Should a whale come along. Yeah. It appears, after all, that megalodon had a much broader range of prey than previously assumed. In the new study, Dr. McCormack and co authors analyzed the ratio of zinc 64 and zinc 66 isotopes in the dental enamel of 19 fossil species from 20.4 to 16 million year old sediments deposited in a shallow seaway, Bird Gullion Seaway, in what is now southern Germany. I'm not very familiar with this seaway, but this is really interesting that they took this into account. Also, quick thing. Why I'm also thinking that that might be able to supply that shark in the movie for the day is because of, I believe it's the dermis layer of skin. Asians tend to have a much thicker layer of fat in that layer of of the skin. No, I'm just taking it as a calorie intake for the shark as compared to, munching on Europeans or I'm not sure about those of sub-Saharan African descent, but you would fill him up. Um, he'd be still on a bit of a diet, but anyway. Um, zinc is ingested with food, uh, whereby less of the heavier isotope zinc 66 than the lighter isotope zinc 64 is stored in muscles and organs, they explained. Accordingly, the tissue of fish that eat fish absorbs significantly less zinc 66. Huh. And those which in turn hunt them for food absorb even less. Wait. I need to. This is interesting. This is why Ototus megalodon and its close relative Ototus chubutensis had the lowest ratio of zinc 66 to zinc 64 at the top of the food chain. sea bream, which fed on mussels, snails, and crustaceans, formed the lowest level of the food chain we studied, Dr. McCormack said. Yeah, I know I'm taking a long time to go from sentence to sentence, but I'm just trying to process in my mind exactly what's going on with what nutrients each shark is absorbing more of. Smaller shark species such as reclaimed sharks and ancestors of today's cetaceans, dolphins, and whales were next. Wait a second. Sea bream mussels formed. Oh, okay. It's talking about the food chain. I was confused. Larger sharks, such as sand tiger sharks, were further up the food pyramid. And at the top were giant sharks like Arulosilicus cucipedatus and the Otodus sharks, which include Megalodon. However, the Otodus sharks cannot be sharply differentiated from the lower levels of the pyramid. That is interesting. Oh, sand tiger sharks. Okay, that makes sense. Um, hmm. That is. Oh, it's talking about the ancestors of specifically today's cetaceans because I'm thinking of like the giant toothed whales of this time. They would be in par with the different otodus sharks like Megalodon when referring to the food chain. Like these different toothed whales, Megalodon had to be quite cautious around these animals. It is a bit of a question as to whether or not they might have hunted in a pod, um, or they might have been just simply aggressive solitary predators. And so they were much more robust compared to today's sperm whales. They could possibly break the jaw of a modern day sperm whale. I mean, modern day sperm whales are just going after different giant squid. Don't really need a very strong skull structure to take down squid. You just need quite serrated teeth. However, the otodus sharks can. Okay. Megalodon was by all means flexible enough to feed on marine mammals and large fish from the top of the food pyramid as well as lower levels depending on availability. Okay, well, this has been quite interesting on what these animals were feeding on and also what specific zinc that they're absorbing. Um, yeah, hopefully we're going to get more stuff about Megalodon pretty shortly. And even the giant toothed whales. I want to take a deeper look into those mammals as well. They did also end up dying close to the same time as Megalodon for some reason, almost as if um, maybe the similar food sources that both the megalodon and the giant toothed whales were feeding on disappeared. Something to do with the different in the change of the temperatures of the oceans changed and it had a major effect. So, um, yeah, these are things I want to know. Okay, well, let me know what your thoughts are on the Chupatensis and the megalodon species of shark in the comments. And thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now let's move on to the next article by Down to Earth. It's International Zebra Day. Wait, really? When? Oh, okay. January 29th was International Zebra Day. I didn't know that. I do know that yesterday, July 10th to 2025, apparently was Capybara Appreciation Day. So, for all of you capybaras listening, thank you for your service. Um, Cape Mountain population rising after near extinction. Gravy zebra stable but scarce. Cape Mountain, I believe it's referring to the Cape Mountain subspecies of mountain zebra, which there might be somewhere around 3,000. Gravy zebra, there could be somewhere around 2,600 to 3,000 individuals, but these are in completely different regions. Mountain zebras in general, it's also the Burchell's mountain zebra. Wait, no, I think the Burchell might be referring to a species of plain zebra. Not the same thing. Mountain zebra, gravy zebra, plain zebra are three distinct species of zebra. The gravy zebra is the largest zebra species. Let's scroll down. Are these the? I don't think these are gravy. I think this is a different species of subspecies of plain zebra in this picture. Gravy zebra have a very distinct look to them. They tend to their stripes tend to be a little more narrow compared to their body size, but they are the largest zebra species. Gravy zebra can reach somewhere around 900 to 1,000 pounds when looking at the males, and they reach a height of somewhere around 5'2" at the top of their shoulder. So, if you're looking at, I think the mountain zebras get to around like just, I think, just above 4 feet. They're not very tall, and they get to around 5 to 600 pounds. Plain zebras, they can reach They can reach around the 800-pound range for their species. And when it comes to the plain zebra population, there could be somewhere around 1 to 1.5 million, and so they're the most common zebra species. Oh, so when looking at the gravy zebra, you're going to find them in different parts of northern Kenya, as well as in the more higher elevations, um, as well as a bit of the lower elevations of central southeastern Ethiopia. But there's also a small population in the central part of the country. Ethiopia might have somewhere between 100 to 200 gravy zebras. The core of the population is within northern Kenya. So yeah, they're having a bit of a problem. I mean, you could say both countries, but definitely Ethiopia. And they do feed on a variety of longer, tougher grasses compared to their well, there aren't really any wildebeest where these zebra are feeding. So they don't have a whole lot of competition. But it's just mainly them going after longer, tougher grasses. Wildebeest tend to focus on softer grasses, unless there's like some extreme drought. While zebra populations are generally declining across Africa, recent conservation efforts offer hope, particularly for the Cape Mountain zebra subspecies, whose numbers are on the rise. Meanwhile, the gravy zebra population remains stable. These observations are highlighted in a press statement issued by Wild Africa, a Cape Town based non governmental organization. When it comes to the mountain zebras, there are a few populations in southeastern Namibia. So this is in southern Africa. And then once you get over to South Africa, there are a variety of different conservancies and national parks that have smaller populations of the mountain zebra that also tend to coexist with animals like the common eland, which is one of the largest species of antelope within Africa. They reach, I think, around 1,800 to 2,100 pounds. And then they also coexist with the rare bontebok, which is another species of antelope. It's much smaller. I think they reach some around 200, 250 pounds, especially the Cape baboons and then the occasional leopards within these regions. Usually, where the mountain zebra exists at the moment, they don't come into contact with carnivores like lions or even spotted hyenas for the most part. It's just leopards. So that's why, at least by a predator standpoint, they tend to have a better time um, rising in population. Endemic to Africa, the plain zebra, obviously it's a zebra, is found across much of eastern and southern Africa. The mountain zebra, however, is restricted to the dry upland plains of Namibia and South Africa, while the rarest, the gravy zebra, is found only in the sparsely wooded areas of Kenya and Ethiopia. Each of these species has multiple subspecies. Yeah, I think the plain zebra itself has around 4 different subspecies. At least for the mountain zebra, 2 different subspecies, and gravies also might have 2. But I was going to mention, it's not hitting me at the moment. Oh, you can find the mountain zebra over in Namibia and South Africa in elevations of at least 6,600 feet above sea level. The plain zebra is most numerous, with an estimated population of up to 250,000 individuals. I'm pretty sure it's, unless I have not been catching up with their population recently, it's much higher. Facts like you have, at least in the Serengeti ecosystem over in northern Tanzania and southern Kenya, 200,000 zebra accompany the wildebeest in the annual migration. And if you go down to areas like a certain part of Botswana with the longest zebra migration, as well as, I believe, large mammal migration on Earth, I well, actually, that population isn't hitting me. Maybe it's much smaller than I thought, but hmm. Okay. One of its 6 subspecies, the quagga, has already become extinct. There's also a project going on called the Quagga Project. So this was basically a very dark subspecies of plain zebra. They used to inhabit certain parts of South Africa, and it went extinct sometime in the 1870s. It was like 1872. There's a couple of pictures of it in a zoo that it was in, I believe, in possibly London. And there are also like certain reconstructions with the realistic skin tone and coloration that it had. But the Quagga Project has been breeding certain zebras, certain plain zebras, to help bring back a sort of coloration that the quagga would have had. Now, I do not know exactly how they're doing this. There are certain pictures where these zebras that they're breeding, they do have a bit of a sort of light brown coloration along their back, and their stripes are also much more narrow than even when looking at certain gravy or mountain zebra populations. Um, that's all I have with the Quagga Project. The gravy zebra, which has officially been declared extinct in Somalia and Sudan, yep, rip, is the rarest, with fewer than 3,100 individuals remaining in Kenya and Ethiopia. However, this endangered species has recently been declared stable. I wouldn't call that population stable. I mean, you could say you could have that low of a population, has it's continuously increasing. There's not really any inbreeding going on, but I I'd still put it on endangered. Um, Another conservation success is the Cape Mountain zebra, whose population has risen after near extinction. Once with fewer than 80 wild individuals, dedicated conservation efforts have helped the Cape Mountain zebra population grow to an estimated 3,247 mature individuals. Good. We commend the outstanding efforts led by Sand Parks for their work in protecting the Cape Mountain zebra from extinction. Their success story proves that through collaboration, we can create meaningful change and offer renewed hope for the future of all zebra species across Africa. Peter Knights, Wild Africa's chief executive, was quoted in the press statement. Yeah, this is interesting because many, when they tend to think about zebras, they think they're all over Africa. And I'd say they're one of the more common large mammal species, but they're not as abundant in Africa as you would think. So, whereas you assume that they're as common as like white-tailed deer over in the United States, um, that's yeah, they're not even close. I mean, we have around 30 million white-tailed deer in the lower 48. They didn't used to be that common prior to massive agriculture. That's really benefited the whitetail in the United States, but yeah, even the plain zebra, they're quite scattered. Um, let's see. So, meanwhile, Jamie Gamer, conservative manager at Old Jogi, I'm guessing that's referring to a conservancy, explained, while the global population of the gravy zebra is stable, the situation remains precarious with fewer than 3,100 individuals. This represents an 80% decline since the 1970s. We are fortunate at Old Jogi Conservancy in Kenya to host one of the largest remaining populations of gravies, with between 300 and 500 individuals on the conservancy at any time. That's good. It is interesting. It's like something happened in the 1970s where you had tens of thousands of more lions, like possibly 50,000 lions were roaming Africa in the 70s. Over like some between 1 to 2 million elephants, and just many more large mammal species were quite abundant. And then all of a sudden, through the 80s, 90s, they just plummeted in population. And I'm just wondering as to why. Jogi is committed to the conservation and recovery of this species, working with multiple partners to ensure a sustainable future for gravy zebra. Okay, let's see. Is there anything else? Okay, I think that's it. Yep. Well, it's good to hear that gravy zebra and mountain zebra are slowly increasing, and so far it doesn't sound like there's really any poaching going on. That's a very good increase, especially with what was it, the gravy zebra population like went from 80 individuals. Um, but Yeah, no, it's good that they're increasing. I think the plain zebra population, at least where they are in different protected areas throughout East and Southern Africa, has kind of remained the same. Not too much of an increase, but I haven't checked in certain conservancies and game reserves. Now, there are also going to be different game reserves, national parks. It's actually quite shocking. Even like some of the more famous ones in Africa, especially Kruger National Park in South Africa, you think that this park would have numbers, at least some estimate of every large mammal within the region, and they don't, unless they just haven't found it yet. It's actually can be quite a hassle to find numbers from these or estimates of these different mammals. Now, you can't have it where they had estimates from like the early 2000s, but we can be talking some instances more than 20 years ago. And you can't really rely off of those numbers, especially where you can have massive poaching events and they can just wipe out the animals in an area in a short period of time. So, yeah, it's a big question, especially how truly well the plain zebra are doing. But besides that, let me know what your thoughts are on these three zebras within Africa in the comments. And thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now let's move on to the final article from outdoors.com. What do we got here? Ranger captures daytime footage of very rare wombat species. So there are three different species of wombat over in Australia. There's the northern hairy-nosed wombat. There's which is the rarest. There's the southern hairy-nosed wombat, and then there's the bare-nosed wombat. I believe that the bare-nosed wombat, there's somewhere around 1.3 million of them, and then the southern hairy-nosed wombat, there's somewhere around think 200,000. Majority, I think half of the population is on the island Tasmania, and then the rest, there's another specific island, I think contains around 76,000 of the southern hairy-nosed wombat. But the northern is quite rare. Let's see which species this is. While conducting a population survey in Epping Forest National Park, a national park in Queensland, so this is in like, you could say somewhat northeastern Queensland. Okay. Basically, if you're looking at the continent of Australia, it's in the northeastern range. It's the state which is in the northeastern range of the continent. Um, Rangers spotted an incredibly rare wombat and captured some equally rare daytime footage of this typically nocturnal animal. Queensland National Park shared the footage to Instagram, identifying the animal as a northern hairy-nosed wombat. Well, it's good to hear because there could be as few as 400 northern hairy-nosed wombats left. It's in like two protected areas, including the Epping Forest National Park within Queensland. Northern hairy-nosed wombats are the largest of Australia's 3 wombat species, and they're the most endangered mammals in Queensland. The northern hairy-nosed wombat can reach somewhere around 85 to 90 pounds, which is the largest in which wombats reach today. And yes, they do live in burrows. They can actually create quite a few within their lifetime. They don't usually share the burrows with other wombats unless it's like a mother with her joey. And they tend to feed on a variety of different species of grasses. They'll also go after different types of roots. Fruits not really consisting much of their diet, and they don't tend to go after different species of insects. They don't eat meat, and they're not really very much into seeds either. Northern hairy-nosed wombats live only in a few isolated places in Queensland, and there are fewer than 400 individuals left in the wild. Yeah, their situation's a bit worse than what you could say with certain species of pygmy possum over in Australia, which in some regions in the southern part of the more higher elevations in Australia, you have these different like moth-eating possums, certain nectar-eating possums, but their range at the moment is actually quite larger than when comparing it to this wombat. So they have a pretty small range at this point. This is a huge improvement from about a half a century ago when there were only about 35 northern hairy-nosed wombats left on Earth. Oh, I didn't realize that there were that few beforehand. It was kind of like with the zebras. Um, this is good. They're doing very well. They're increasing. Wombats tend to have just one joey. Twins are very rare. Ranger Sam captured this amazing footage of a rare daytime encounter with the northern hairy-nosed wombat at Epping Forest National Park during a recent Department of Environment and Science population survey. Queensland National Parks wrote in the Instagram post sharing the video. Surveys like these and all the hard work our threatened species team does is crucial to the survival of this critically endangered wombat. See the daytime. Oh, okay. Here's our mate. Yeah, he looks healthy, at least in his weight. Maybe he got could have got scratched by another wombat. I mean, they have quite claws which are to assist them when digging up the burrows, even digging up certain roots. They can be quite feisty when fighting off different animals, especially like dingoes. So is this it? In the morning, he slept. In the afternoon, the wombat slept. In the evening, he had some grass. Night, he ate more grass. And then he decided the grass was boring. This is the diary of a wombat named Jackie French. Ranger okay. Okay, so this was at King Forest National Park. Well, good to hear. So, yeah, this, hopefully, the northern hairy-nosed wombat continues to increase in population, and also this specific habitat area does need to stay protected. Um, okay, well, that's it for the news of the day. Um Remember to like, comment, and if you love talking about animals, share this show with everyone you know. Nothing is better than all animals